Where do you think downtown Beaverton is?
There is no downtown Beaverton at this point.
It's kind of difficult to tell where Beaverton's downtown is.
Is this going to be downtown? Is this town center?
That's a million-dollar question.
Nobody really knows where is downtown Beaverton.
Beaverton was built on a railroad. I mean, that's what started the town, if you look at the history.
And then it became kind of a bedroom community. And the bedroom communities have continued to move further and further west. So people stream through Beaverton on Canyon Road, becomes like 35,000 cars a day.
It's always been a town that had great location because of, you know, the highways and the railroad, and it still does to this day. I mean, it's still the gateway to Washington County. If you're coming from Portland, you've got to go through Beaverton.
Beaverton has quadrupled in size in the past 25 years, but it's just grown. It hasn't had any kind of strategy for how it's grown.
And so Beaverton is now grown up to a point where, wait a minute, we don't want to be this just place in between where everybody drives through. Let's see if we can recapture a downtown for Beaverton.
My name is John Gottschall, and I teach photography here at the Arts and Communication Magnet, and I teach another class called Urban Design. When I asked the kids to design a street that they would be interested in designing, what they came up with was interesting public places where they can listen to music, perhaps, where they can just even walk around and have it be a stimulating environment. There's no place to do that downtown Beaverton. Now, walking around downtown Beaverton is the last thing that they want to do. In fact, if you ask them, would they walk around, they look at you like, why would I do that?
Hey, after school, you guys want to go to Bed Bath & Beyond and hang out?
Beaverton feels really concrete and pavement and not really friendly.
It is so expansive. It's like a concrete jungle.
There's no storefronts to be looking in the windows of. There's just, you're trapped between a parking lot and a high-speed road. And so as a result, nobody walks there, and nobody's going to walk there until the physical environment changes.
The sidewalks were something that we really noticed. You don't feel safe walking, and I think just coming from a high school standpoint where I'm not constantly driving places, a lot of times I'm either riding a bike or walking, that you want to feel safe on the roads, and right now everything just feels really cramped.
I think that feeling is probably shared by many of the people throughout the city. There are things you can do to increase a sense of safety.
Wider sidewalks, tree-lined. I see, a little spot where somebody's got a table with an umbrella, sipping coffee, having lunch or dinner, whatever time of the day that it is. And just a mix of different kinds of shopping, people just enjoying where they're at.
What's going to make people comfortable walking around our town? If we can get people to that point, I think the rest starts to fill itself in. People will want to work there. People will want to open shops there. People will want to live there. One of the most interesting parts of the whole civic planning process has been the look at Canyon Road, Farmington Road, and to a lesser extent some of the other streets like Hall and Watson.
The streets are disconnected and oddly laid out and probably need to be more thought through.
Finding a way to add to the east-west options besides Canyon and Farmington, finding more ways to cross Canyon and Farmington, more streets that will go north-south across those two. Find a way to continue to move the vehicles through that need to move through. And we are a transportation arterial.
If we change the lane sizes, put some streetscape in there, make the left turn safer, poke through a couple more cross streets.
If we can turn it from a 5-lane high-speed car arterial to a boulevard, a parkway, something that has that strong pedestrian element along with the movement of the vehicles, that maybe even to some extent slows the traffic down a bit, still getting throughput but not necessarily at the same speed, then we start to get the intermixing of pedestrians and vehicles to a degree we don't have right now.
Parking is a conundrum in many ways for the city of Beaverton. We have plenty of parking throughout the city. A study was done within the last 2 years that showed we have an excess amount of parking. It's the location of parking that's critical and the perception of the availability of parking.
If you can park in one place and then walk past a number of stores.
Small structures can be put in place so people can get out of their car, walk around safely, carry things back to their car, and get on about their business.
It encourages people to mingle, and then you have street life. And then, because you have street life, that's the kind of thing that can fold upon itself and multiply the effect, and then more people come out. And you can, I think, if you do the parking right, you could really boost the economy much more than you can by having every shop with its own discrete parking lot in front of it. If you create a denser downtown, you have to create open space for people to meet. And again, it has to be a place that people feel comfortable meeting and people want to go. But if you do that, people just will go there.
If you look at a house, you have the family room, the living room, you have private spaces like bedrooms and so on. It's the same in a city. If you go outside your building, there's where your living room is.
A nice plaza is something that is never empty. People go there all times of year and almost all times of day. And that's something that may not show up directly on the tax roll, but the businesses around a property like that will benefit, and so will the entire community.
Streets don't have to just be places for cars, but streets can be public spaces.
You know, we're looking at a way to do that, and the perfect spot initially would be Broadway. That's a traditional street, it's been there a long time, and right now when we do things, we have to close one end or close off 2 blocks. So people are kind of getting used to it, and it works.
And to not only say a street is a shared space, but a festive street, a place for public events, is nothing short of brilliant.
It's not enough just to talk about the built environment. We also need to talk about people's need for trees and grass and places to walk, places to play.
For a long time, Beaverton Creek has been considered an impediment to some of the kinds of development we'd like to see in the downtown area.
If you take those streams and redo them, try to landscape them in a more organic kind of way, you try to divert the runoff from impervious surfaces into the groundwater, which would support a natural stream flow. You do some native planting, vegetation along the streams, put a bike path, a pedestrian path along it. Suddenly you have a really nice amenity downtown which would attract people. And then my guess is the real estate along that riverbank, which formerly just wanted to turn its back on the river, now it's going to want to turn its face to the river. And my guess is that those property values are going to go up because that's going to be really lovely property. Developing downtown means you bring people downtown to live. You have apartments, you have condo units, you have townhouses, you know, multi-use buildings, and suddenly you have a population that is there. And maybe they don't use their cars all that often because they can use light rail, they can take a bus. As soon as you bring people downtown, then it becomes less car dependent in the sense that some people can just walk to the shop.
If you walk from, say, Fred Meyer over to Cedar Hills Crossing, or from Cedar Hills Crossing down to the library, it's maybe a 10-minute walk. It's not very far.
People live and work in the same place and they don't have to drive everywhere. They can walk down their street and get their groceries, like drop off their dry cleaning, and then go home over retail. I think would make things more dense and compact in that way.
We're not looking for 50-story buildings in downtown Beaverton, you know, 2, 3, 4 stories. The dynamic will change dramatically if we can make that happen, and I'm confident the Civic Plan is going to give us a pathway on how to do that.
People in Beaverton are ready for their city to take the next step of evolution, to become a great place, to have a wonderful downtown.
So often plans are evolved, and they talk about it, then they end up on a shelf, and 17 or 20 years go by, nothing happens. We can't afford to do that.
We would like to do this. We would like to make Beaverton a much better place to grow up in and to live in than it is right now.
Love it if my kids could get educated here and find a job here and raise my grandkids close to here.
What an opportunity to reshape this city for this coming century. You couldn't have a better challenge or in a place that's definitely worth the effort to do this.
I think with the plans that the city's doing, Beaverton will become truly a multicultural, cosmopolitan, great place to be.